Hello, this is going to be the last video wrapping up the Exodus. We're going to be looking at the second significant event after Israel is delivered from Egypt, and that is the golden calf incident. So, just to bring us up to speed, what has happened before this point? Israel is in Egypt, and they are delivered, and they enter the wilderness. Yahweh, the Lord, achieves victory over the Pharaoh his God, and soon Israel is in front of Mount Sinai. That is where God gives them the law, including the 10 Commandments. He gives rules concerning his tabernacle. And Moses spends a long time up on Mount Sinai. It seems he goes up on Mount Sinai like 6 or 7 times. But the last time he's up there for 40 days, it says. There's a reference for you. So let's read Exodus 32 verses 1 through 6. This is going to open up the section that I'd like to look at today. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, "Up, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." So Aaron said to them, "Take off the rings of gold that are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people took off the rings of the gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made a golden calf. And they said, "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation and said, "Tomorrow shall be a feast to the Lord." And they rose up early the next day and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. So, what happens in this golden calf incident? The people get tired of waiting for Moses. They want to have tangible gods to go before them. Remember, they've seen God's power. He has poured plagues over the Egyptians and finally defeated their Pharaoh and their armies at the Red Sea. But the people want something to look at, to see, to touch, something tangible. Aaron has them give up their gold to fashion the idol like they were asked to build the tabernacle. Aaron makes an idol and attributes the exodus from Egypt to it, which is a fascinating thing. Then he calls a feast to the Lord. So perhaps he is considering that the golden calf is an image of God. The people make offerings to it, and the party begins. I don't believe this is a good party. I don't think they're going out to play cornhole or volleyball. I think there's more going on, but that's not necessary to this story. Let's continue. Exodus 32, 9 through 10. And the Lord said to Moses, "I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them, in order that I may make a great nation of you." So stiff-necked has the idea of being stubborn, resistant to change. And God says, "I'm going to kill them, and I'm going to make a great nation from you, Moses." So Moses would replace Abram. But Moses implored the Lord his God and said, "O Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say, 'With evil intent did he bring them out, to kill them in the mountains and to consume them from the face of the earth'? Turn from your burning anger and relent from this disaster against your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self, and said to them, 'I will multiply your offspring as the stars of the heaven, and all this land that I have promised I will give to your offspring, and they shall inherit it forever.' And the Lord relented from the disaster that he had spoken of bringing on his people." Notice how Moses speaks on behalf of the people. He asks God if other people groups want to see God destroying his people after delivering them, which would give God a bad name. He begs God to turn back from his anger. He reminds God of his promise to Abram, Isaac, and Jacob, and ultimately God relents from destroying Israel. Moses, standing alone before God, speaks on behalf of the people. Exodus 32, 30 through 34. The next day Moses said to the people, "You have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up to the Lord." Remember, Lord in all caps is the name of God, Yahweh. "Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." So Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Alas, this people have sinned a great sin. They have made for themselves gods of gold. But now if you will forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out of your book that you have written." But the Lord said to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. But now, go, lead the people to the place about which I have spoken to you. Behold, my angel shall go before you. Nevertheless, in the day when I visit, I will visit their sin upon them. So, what is happening here? Moses offers himself as atonement for Israel. This is huge. You have the leader of Israel offering himself as atonement for the people. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sins, he says. He confesses their sins to the Lord. He offers himself in place of them if God won't forgive. God declines, saying that whoever sins will be blotted out of his book. It's their responsibility. They will be the ones who are judged. Moses' atonement is not enough, and plague follows. But notice, God does not destroy all the people. Moses has interceded for them and advocated for the people, and ultimately he offers himself as atonement. His atonement isn't enough, but his speaking for the people does spare them. Let's think about ourselves. We are idol factories. We produce idols at a regular pace. Just like Israel got tired of waiting for Moses, we question when God isn't following our timeline. We question whether God is able or willing to provide for and lead us. Just like Israel wanted tangible gods to follow and trust in, we seek after things we can see to give us satisfaction. Wealth, people, popularity, pleasure, all these are things that offer what we are craving, if only we will look away from Yahweh and turn to them. But let us also remember that the end of idolatry is emptiness and destruction. Let's bring it to today. Thankfully, we have a better leader than Moses. Moses was not able to save the people from God's judgment, but Jesus isn't surprised when we are sinful, since he knows us better than we know ourselves. Moses was surprised. God had to tell him. Jesus is not surprised. Jesus does intercede and advocate on our behalf before the Father, reminding him of his promises to us and his love for us. Lastly, Jesus didn't fail at offering himself as atonement for us, and he died in our place, setting us right before the Father. Jesus is better than Moses. So, what should we remember? Two things. When we are tempted to create yet another idol to follow, something that we think will please us, let us remember what happened to Israel. They created their idols, and it led to emptiness, judgment, death. But let us also remember that we have a better leader in Jesus, who will always make us righteous before the Father. So even when we do create idols and we do fall away, Jesus will be there, interceding for us, advocating for us, and he has already offered himself as atonement for us. Jesus is better than Moses.